welcome to the session on how to implement generative AI applications for your enterprise. And I'm very privileged to welcome a panel of luminaries here that we have going. And we'll start with a quick introduction and then get started. So my name is Ali Arsanjani. I lead AI/ML partner engineering for Google Cloud and run an AI/ML center of excellence. I'm going to pass it on to you, Ben.
Hello, I'm Ben Kuss. I'm Chief Technology Officer at Box.
Hi, my name is Arvind Jain. I am the founder and CEO of Glean.
Hi, I'm Vishal Sood. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Typeface.
It's Rehan Jalil. I'm the CEO for Securiti AI.
Hi, and I'm Shadman Zafar. I'm a co-CIO for CitiBank.
Awesome. Thank you all very much for joining in, and thank you all for participating in this session. Yes, this is who we are. If you want to check out how to get in touch with us after the fact, please take a shot of that and find us on LinkedIn. So some of the common application areas that we see in generative AI are around chatbots and virtual agents, around content generation, around code generation and assistance, explanation, data augmentation, and search and information retrieval. We have a notion of companies who are doing POCs and a notion of companies who are going into production. So how many of you have had POCs in the past year with generative AI? Raise your hands, please. POCs with generative AI. Okay. That is maybe 90% of the audience. So how many of you have had production application moved into production? Raise your hands. This is awesome. This is fantastic. We have about a fifth of the audience. That's great. 6 months ago, it would have been even less. So as we move throughout the year, we're getting more traction in terms of going from that second column to the production stage. But that means that there's increased sophistication as we go from POC to production. We're handling complex things that are enterprise-grade applications. So some of the common challenges that we're experiencing, I'm going to highlight some, and my colleagues here are going to dive into the ones they face every day. Some of them, if you're an ISV, you're building an end-to-end software application with large language models, data ownership and licensing is one of the issues. Customizing it for a specific domain and yet having it flexible enough to address multivarious use cases is another. You have to integrate with existing back-end systems that are in place. As a security company, you have to have input validation and sanitization so there are no injection attacks. You avoid vulnerabilities that could compromise your LLM. You have model robustness to take care of in terms of artificial intelligence attacks that could be there, in terms of adversarial attacks, in terms of employing techniques that are, as you've trained a model, like for example, when we trained the Gemini model, we trained it fundamentally multimodal, and as it moves up, we do adversarial training as it goes on. Data privacy and compliance is critical for all of us, including financial services and everywhere else. Content generation has to preclude contextual understanding. If you have a platform for content understanding generation, like Box does, for example, or you're searching like Glean does, or, for example, with Typeface, you're essentially creating marketing material and sales material. With security, you're creating knowledge graphs. And so handling large corpora of data, unstructured data, structured data becomes an important challenge. And of course, fact-checking and verifiability, being able to be grounded in the information that you generate. So one of the key things to understand, we all know, is the problem-solution fit. With generative AI, there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of reality. And so initially, everything looks like a nail when you have a hammer, right? So we have to really see if the solution to the problem is a generative solution, and if there is data available, quality data that is available for your training, for your applications. There are responsible AI considerations that we have to take into account with bias, diversity, safety that needs toxicity controls in place, and then, of course, technical expertise. So in terms of technical expertise in organizations, we have seen that it's important for us as an organization, and I'm, any organization out here, you need to understand where you're at and where you should be from a technical perspective. So a lot of us do prompting and serving the models, and that's it, prompt reengineering. Some of us then go into doing retrieval augmentation. I'm guessing that most people in the room are doing RAG, retrieval augmentation. The next stage of maturity is to augment that with fine-tuning for domain-specific areas like retail, financial services, healthcare, etc. Or if there are highly technical areas like security or marketing, right? And then ultimately, and you saw today, we announced some of our grounding APIs, so you can conduct a search, whether it's a Google search externally or whether it's an enterprise search inside the confines of your data and organization to verify that the content that was generated is actually truthful or not. So these increase the chances that you are getting quality information. And then the next stage is where you're having orchestration of LLMs and agents together, multi-agent systems. We talked a lot about agents. Thomas Kurian, our CEO, talked about the agents and various types of agentic interactions. We have LLM ops that augments these things in a pipeline, monitoring and managing the models in production. And then finally, the idea is an increased level of sophistication around all of what we said, but increased levels of sophistication. And we can go into a lot more detail on that, but I'm going to let the panel move in that direction. But level 0 is our data. So if we have bad data, we're not going to get miraculously a great AI system. So utilizing AI in that context requires a good data hygiene capability. So with that, I'm actually going to pass it on to my colleagues to talk about how can organizations successfully incorporate generative AI in your applications, into your products, for your customers.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. I am Ben from Box. And if you don't know what Box is, we call ourselves the Content Cloud. And we have over 100,000 enterprise customers across the world, different industries, different locations. And one of the things that we do is that we provide enterprise-grade ability to have content management services. So thinking about things like contracts and presentations and sales material and just anything that runs a company. And we often call this unstructured content. And this is really critical for when we are thinking about AI, is we're always thinking about it in terms of unstructured content. And one of the great things about models like what Google has released is that for the first time ever for unstructured content, you can actually apply AI directly to the unstructured content. And this provides a whole new set of capabilities, and our job is to basically take those capabilities and then provide them to our users of Box. So in terms of the kind of challenges that we have been working with, both with ourselves and with our customers, and in terms of how we've solved it and the advice that we have, I'll point you to 3 different things. So the first that we've noticed is that everybody's excited about AI. Everybody wants to talk about AI. We've had no end of customers wanting to talk about it. However, many enterprises we talk to are scared. I think if I asked you guys to raise your hands if you're scared of AI deep down, I suspect we'll get a lot of people saying yes. And it's partially because of all the different concerns that you have around security. So are these models, what are they doing? Let's say that you have a model that has access to employees' PII. Let's say it has access to an upcoming M&A deal or financial results. And then what happens if somebody asks the AI a question and they don't have access to that data? How does that work? How do you solve that kind of problem? And these kinds of challenges are what we see as keeping people from using some of the new capabilities of AI. So for Box, what we've done, and what I would recommend in all cases, is that you definitely need to orient, to have your AI always respect the fundamentals of enterprise-grade security, of permissions, of being able to make sure that the models are isolated and making sure that they don't learn things they're not supposed to, and give the data to the people who don't have access to them. And so we've done that with our enterprise-grade security, and we've released that to our customers. The second piece is around, I think still, even though it's been a couple of years, customers are still very unsure what to do with AI. We talk to customers. I had a funny interaction recently with a Fortune 100 CIO, And normally when we start these conversations, we always ask, what do you want to solve with AI? And it's just kind of a standard thing we would always say. And I think his response was, I have no clue. I don't know what this stuff is. I don't know what it does. Everything changes every week. Like, how am I supposed to know? You tell me what it does, and then I'll tell you about like what I can use it for. And I think this resonates for me a lot with a lot of customers we talk to, which is that they're still understanding and exploring what AI can do. And as it evolves, it's just kind of a tricky thing to understand. So my advice in this case is to basically get started. Like, I think it's hard for you to understand what AI can do, especially for your company, for your data, for your use cases, the things you care about, unless you actually just start to try it. The way you talk to AI, the way that it can respond to you, it kind of requires you actually start to try it. So that's my a piece of advice there, is to just try it. At Box, we try to make it extra easy to just click the button, start to do something as simple as asking questions of a document. And this is the kind of way that you kind of go down a path of maturity, like we were talking about earlier. And then the third thing is that I think a lot of people are worried about AI costs. It is very true from my perspective that AI, when you're using it, is probably the most expensive thing that you can do in terms of like when it's typing to you. It's typing very slow, which Google will tell us about, because of all the GPUs that are going on in the background and all the power it's using. And that means that you have to worry about costs. And this is something that can kind of get in your way of adoption. And so for me, the thing that I would kind of give advice to, and it's something that we believe inside of Box philosophically, is AI should be incorporated into products, and we should do it in a way that makes it easy for our customers to get started, similar to point number 2. So this is the 3 points that I think are sort of the challenges that we've seen recently, in addition to what we're looking for a solution. Now, in terms of success stories, I'd say overall, what we've noticed is that the more complex that you have some of your users, some of your employees, with the tasks that they're doing, AI can really help start to simplify a lot of them across the board. So for things like lawyers seem to get a lot of usage out of some of the capabilities of AI. People doing financial research, people doing who have to analyze kind of long and complex things, AI can really help you because it can kind of fundamentally understand what's going on and help answer your questions, find information, synthesize information, and so on. And so I expect that these kinds of capabilities that we're seeing from our customers, and we'll see here from the panel, like people will start to be able to take advantage of these coming up soon. I think also you'll start to see more and more advanced cases as people get used to these and start to be able to provide not just some of the simple use cases, but maybe more of the advanced business process, streamlining different pieces that are kind of hard to get started with, but easy to kind of incrementally build off of what you've done previously. So with that, let me turn it over to Arvind.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Let me take the...
They were clapping for you in the other room.
Yes, I'll start with first sharing a little bit about Glean and what we do. So Glean is an AI-powered work assistant that connects with all of your company's information and knowledge. And then it helps your employees find answers to questions that they have using that knowledge. You can think of it like a search engine. You can think of it like a conversational, chat interface where people can come and ask questions and get answers to their questions. Some of the challenges that we hear about from our enterprise customers and CIOs around that is, so if you think about your company information, one of the issues with doing the thing that I just mentioned, which is how do I answer questions that your employees have using all of your company knowledge. The models themselves don't have access to any of that knowledge. The models are trained on public information on the internet, and there is a big challenge in terms of connecting your enterprise data and knowledge with these models. So the way we solve that is, of course, using a powerful search and RAG technology, where Glean, after it connects with all of your enterprise systems, we have hundreds of pre-built enterprise integrations to most common applications, including Box and many others like Google Drive. And we make it really easy for our enterprise customers to actually have an ability to search over all of that information and then bring that information into the models and help answer questions for your people. The second challenge that we've heard from our customers is that if you think about enterprise information, it's not like the web where all information is available to everyone. Enterprise, it requires the highest levels of governance and security. Most of the information available inside your enterprise is accessible only by a small set of people. So when you think about building these experiences where you're trying to make that knowledge work for all of your people, you have to have those right governance controls in your product. The way we do that is by building a fully permissions-aware search index and a RAG platform where when Glean connects with all of these different enterprise systems, it actually also understands what users and what groups have access to that piece of information that we're indexing. So now when a user comes and asks a question, we will know their identity and we'll be able to only retrieve knowledge that they have access to and use that knowledge and bring that to the models to then work on and generate safe and secure answers from it. So that way you actually avoid the problem of leaking knowledge inside your company. The third, and this is actually the most difficult challenge that we've heard from our customers that, people will come and say that we've tried the AI technologies, we've actually built a RAG, we've connected our company information with, with this RAG, and now we're bringing this the information into the models, but it's actually coming and answering questions, incorrectly. Sometimes it's using out-of-date information. Sometimes it doesn't have the right information, and it's almost like garbage in, garbage out in terms of the overall experience. And so more than hallucinations, because when you think, last year the topic always with models was that models can hallucinate, but in this new enterprise use cases where RAG is the way you're defining, your application architecture, even bigger problem is actually, how do you provide the right data to the models for the questions that you're actually trying to get the model to answer. Some of the challenges there are, how do you weed out-of-date information? How do you remove information that is actually not high quality? Information, the information that you need to actually use is fresh and up-to-date information that has high engagement, information that's written by subject matter experts, information, and when you come in and ask a question, if you are an engineer, using information that actually is more meaningful to engineers versus if you are marketing, using information that actually makes more sense for marketers. These are some of the things that you have to work on to make sure that you're always given a task or given a question, you're picking the right information and giving it to models so that the models have the right input to produce the right output. So those are some of the key challenges that we have seen come up with our customers and the techniques that we've used to solve them. Some of the success stories for us. One of the big use cases for Gen AI has been engineering teams. Developers can significantly benefit from Gen AI-based tools. Like if you think about engineers, me myself being an engineer, I know that I barely get to spend 20% of my time writing code. The rest of the time, I'm actually just trying to get context on projects, trying to figure out who are the right people who I can go and have design discussions with. A lot of time is spent just trying to read information from the past, read the code, read the past commits and look at Jiras, and a lot of work happens there. And AI can really help you provide context across all of those different systems and repositories. So one of our customers, which is a global software company with over 10,000 employees, they deployed Glean across all of their engineering teams and connected systems like Jira and Confluence and GitHub and Google Drive, and gives your developers one place where they can go and ask any questions. And some of the most common use cases there tend to be developers actually going in and troubleshooting issues that they're facing and immediately get the right context using AI and troubleshoot issues faster. This company reported that they've saved almost 40 engineering years within the first year of deploying Glean. Second use case is from a large global telecommunications company that is actually using Glean across their customer care team. So they have over 50,000 agents who now use Glean to answer questions that their customers are asking. Glean is deployed and connected with their knowledge articles within their customer care center, as well as internal information within the company. So now when customers come and ask questions, the agents will actually look at Glean and see what responses Glean suggests using AI technologies, and then pass that information back to the customers. And with doing that, there's real a win in production environment, and this company is actually now resolving customer cases 47% faster than before, which is huge, and that brings tens of millions, or if not hundreds of millions of dollars in savings in their call centers. So those are some of the use cases that we've seen success with. With that,
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So Vishal. So quickly, so what is Typeface? I think it's a very visual product. So it is basically a generative AI application platform, which helps you create personalized content at scale. And it is designed for users, so anybody should be able to use Typeface to create content. And given it's a visual product, I thought I'll just play a quick video to show you what Typeface is, and then I can give you more context on the challenges and the stuff. That was good music to wake everybody up after the lunch. So I think, as you can see, it's a lot involved in building a solution like that. And there have been several learnings over the last 18 months of building Typeface. But we just picked 3 of them here, right? So very first thing is, as we were designing a system for end users, right? So it's the idea is your employees are actually using this tool to create content. The very first thing we realized is there is a blank canvas problem. So the idea is the employee goes in there and they have no idea what prompts to type. I bet all of the people in the room have kind of mastered that art over a period of time. You all have your prompt databases. But when you go to new users, they don't know where to start. So we started building capabilities like magic prompts, just give us some keywords, and Typeface will then go back and create the best prompt for you. And the reason for that is, the reason I'm sharing this is, as you build these solutions, your maturity model might be way, way ahead of where the average user in your company might be. So just kind of account for that as you're building this solution. And the second thing is, it's kind of a maturity curve, right? So now you can create great content, that's awesome. But then you think about the next step in your journey as a company, like what am I creating the content for? Who am I creating the content for, right? This is where I think Arvind was talking about the enterprise context. In the case of content creation, that context comes from your digital asset management systems, your audience platforms, your brand kits. So how do you take all that content in And then how do you then use that to ground your output so that the content is in your voice, for your audiences, for your geographies, for your channels, right? And this goes way beyond marketing. Like it could be your employees are sometimes, future employees are sometimes your audience, right? So how do you kind of basically bring your enterprise context? And that is a theme you will see all of us are kind of reiterating on. So then, okay, great. Now you are able to create great content, it's in your voice, and now you want to roll out the solution, right? So then what ends up happening is then you start thinking about, oh, how am I going to govern this solution? Is this going to be safe when more employees start using it? Is it going to be responsible? Am I honoring my responsible AI policies my company has? So just think about those as you design solutions, and then Typeface has a maturity model. We have 6 layers of trust we have built into the solution, and it all starts with building on a very, very robust model, which in this case comes from Google, and there's lots of sessions in this conference about how responsible AI is front and center. So who do you pick as a model provider, and then what do you do on top of that is pretty critical. So these are just 3 things we picked. There are several such learnings we have had along the way. With that, I'll just go switch gears and talk about a few customer success stories. So once again, quite a few here. They span across B2C, B2B, because content is so pervasive, it's almost everywhere. I'll just pick 2 stories that are pretty cool here. So one is the dog with the hard hat, because dogs always make for a great story. So I think in this case, it was an insurance provider. So it's a Fortune 500 insurance provider, and they essentially give employee insurance plans. So the idea there was, when you get a benefits plan from your company, these are the providers who actually power that in the back end, right? And these companies actually also have additional policies they want to sell to employees, right? For example, pet insurance, legal plans. And they realized, they did a psycho behavior research, and what they realized is, if your image has the pet you have, you are more likely to respond to that. So they actually did this. So both, like in this case, imagine if you're selling to Home Depot, a dog with a hard hat is always going to be better, right? And then if you're selling to a person with a dog as a pet, send them a dog image. If you have a cat, send you a cat image. So now you can do all these kind of personalizations, and their estimates are they're going to get 2 to 5% sales bump with this kind of a model, right? So this is their estimates. One more I'll share is on the consumer electronics side. So the second in this in the list is an electronics manufacturer. So they actually have a ton of appliances they sell, home electronics equipment they sell, so TVs, sound bars, washer dryers, and their problem was all these are different teams within the company. They all create their own content, but they wanted to define one company voice. So, and then they wanted to go to 90 different geographies. So the example here is, we have actually anonymized these, but they actually took Typeface to then take their context in, their brand, the unified brand voice, the audience segments, and they created local geographical content on their websites for 90 different geographies using Typeface. So this was massive. It would take them weeks, and sometimes they wouldn't even do it because it was so hard, and now they are able to do it. So I'll just pause in the interest of time, but there are lots more cases to go forward. So thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. As Securiti AI, we primarily enabling you to be using your own data, structured or unstructured, with any models, and that's really the core for the company, using in a safe fashion. So unstructured data is spread out. It's in all different kind of places, all different kind of apps, and truly you can call it like truly the kingmaker in the generative applications. But it doesn't go without structured data, because you may be taking that and using that in making decisions and so forth. As a company, what you would also need is to have a full understanding of the metadata that exists around it if you really want to use it in a safe fashion with any generative model that exists in Google Cloud. Whether it's a first party, whether it's a second party, as a commercial offering or as an open source, if it's available there, how do you marry this, your proprietary data, to build your own proprietary generative applications to build the agents on top of it, while marrying it all together in a way that your own apps, whether you're building your own assistants or you're building automating any business operations, or using it for key applications that we have not even thought about right now, or any of the insights that may be out there. This whole framework is something that is provided as one pipeline, where data can be picked upon in a safe fashion from any of these applications, while you can enforce security controls, privacy controls, governance controls inline in this pipeline to remove any sensitive information out of it, and marry it with any of the models, use any of the vector DBs that are available, Vertex AI and Vertex Search, in Google Cloud, and then of course create the experiences that you want to create. It could be a chatbot, it could be an API that you want to plug into your own application, it could be that you are plugging this thing to your website and so forth, but having that available to be doing in a safe fashion is something that is provided in partnership with Google Cloud here while we operate on the Google Cloud and use the technologies that Google Cloud actually offers to build these things. The challenge is what we've heard, building ourselves, and of course, this is a layer that we provide to our customers. The very first thing is to actually having a good understanding of your unstructured data. And I'm highlighting it, unstructured, for the reason being that structured data have been heavily used before for BI. People have dealt with it for ETLs and ELTs. Unstructured is a whole new ballgame. Now, of course, if you really want to utilize it to create value, first you have to manage it properly, understand what constructs exist around it, and what does quality mean in it, what does lineage mean in it, what does entitlement mean in it, what does security controls mean inside it. That's a brand new area and has to actually have a good handle on it before you can feel comfortable to go from POCs to go to full production. And there we have seen that having a knowledge graph in one place where you can actually understand what can I do with this data, what can I not do with this data, to pick the right data sets and to move into your applications along the way. The second challenge, what we've seen with the customers and ourselves is like, what is the most appropriate model from the efficacy perspective that you will find in the model garden in Google Cloud, whether directly provided or through partnerships? What is the most appropriate model at the right price points that is appropriate for that use case, and your ability to pick very easily and marry it with the right data without having much effort, that had to be provided. So that's actually more, I would say, a flexible Gen AI pipeline builder where you can actually do that within a few clicks along the way. The third important thing is, I'm sure every one of you have heard about EU AI Act, NIST AI RMF, and there are, by the way, 20 others like that. In case of GDPR, it took us maybe a couple of decades from .com to 2018 when the GDPR came through. About 20-year journey. AI didn't take that long. You had the ChatGPT moment, AI moment, Gen AI moment, and boom, you actually have regulations after regulations coming through. You got to be ready for that. How do you ensure that you can automate that thing? Otherwise, going from POCs to production and showing to your boards and your exec teams that it is safe, and to your consumers, most importantly, your customers, most importantly, that it is safe and responsible use of AI, it's not going to happen till this is embedded as part of the pipeline itself. A lot of use case, actually, because it is, it's a Swiss Army knife. So from that lens, you will see an example from a customer onboarding. For instance, when you onboard a customer in a financial institution, there's a lot of contracts. I'm talking about enterprise customer. There'll be board material, there'll be contracts that have to be reviewed before you can onboard a customer. How can you automate it? It's about unstructured data, structured data, KYC requirements, doing it in a fashion that you're not violating a bunch of laws before you onboard enterprise customer. It's a prime use case for it. Another example being that if you're trying to create a nurse bot or something, you want to make sure you can use your data to train these models, but how do you make it safe? How does it be HIPAA compliant? So while you pick the data, can automatically it be cleaned, brought to a place where you can use it for your training of those specified models. And I think some of these use cases got covered, whether it is a knowledge base for developers, it is not within one app. As I think it was mentioned before also, it is across multiple apps. It may be Jira, Confluent, and GitHub, all combined knowledge from which the answers had to be derived, not just one app in isolation by itself. The data sits in the knowledge in an enterprise, sits in multiple different apps. It has to be combined if you really want to get good answers from it. But I think, again, in the app building world, sky's the limit. And imagination, human imagination is going to be the biggest driver for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll actually bring it to some level of a close and a train of thought of, I'm sort of a consumer, so I'll give you a CIO perspective of all the technologies we talked about here. I'm a consumer of most of the technologies, and actually, we are either customers of each one of you or talking to be a customer pretty soon. So I'll give you a little bit of a sense of what bringing all of these technologies into an enterprise means from a CIO perspective. First and foremost, let me just say, so I'm a CIO for CitiBank. So as a global bank, most important thing is really safety and soundness and protection of our customers. We have to worry about it every single day. But even if you're not a global bank, I can guarantee you every CIO I talk to, that is at the top of their mind. As we are introducing a new technology, there's risk associated with it, and the CIOs does not sleep at night thinking about that. It does not mean that we are too conservative or we are not excited about it. We're extremely excited about the possibilities. But there are ways to go about doing it. And one of the key things we have thought about, and we saw that some people have made, I would call probably a mistake, an approach to rolling it out, AI, into a large organization, is that you can go two different ways. You can set up a lab with a few smart people to go and figure out what's happening in here and roll out a specific project. Frankly, we did that for last year for several months as well. But I took a very direct stance, and we actually call this from lab to the factory floor. We are in an active mode of taking AI out of the lab. Few projects that are taking place in one specific group of people who are AI experts to truly get it on a factory floor, means everybody uses it. We have one of the largest Copilot deployment in, I think one of the largest in the world. Several tens of thousands of people use Copilot in Citi today. That was incredibly valuable. You know why? Because I think so all of us think about one super cool use case that's going to like make the headlights. We are finding that AI is not like that kind of a technology. It is actually it's a creation of a whole new tech stack. And every single project in a large company like ours, who may have 10, 15, 20,000 projects, could benefit from it. There are some specialized use cases. There are standard use cases. But putting those aside, we are trying to open up a whole book of work. The second element we are very focused on is around talent. I think so everybody talks about talent very actively in this space. And it's important to get the right talent to the company. As important, however, we have found, is training our own talent the right way. So we've created a concept called sort of AI expert manufacturing factory. It's essentially our own employees who want to become AI experts, and they are generally pretty much there. And we get few key people and put them under mentorship/apprenticeship, and they come out as AI experts on the other end. It has been a fantastic outflow of bringing right talent in place. And the last thing I would say is in sort of executing on this program is having a mindset that we are truly in 1994 of internet, where we know that this technology will sustainably change how we work for decades to come, but it's not going to be a one cool project done this year. It's going to be a transformation of the organization. It requires breaking the boundaries in the departments, because you can think about it, like marketing, data analytics, maybe two different organizations traditionally. With generative AI, data analytics team could actually directly generate the campaign that is personalized and can go out to the end customers and actually execute on that, which were two different departments. So we're actively looking at redesigning of departments and processes that need to sit in an organization. Having that kind of a mindset rather than taking a specific project that was done this way, and now we can automate it a little bit with AI, and now we can sort of get some value out of it in a different way. It's probably good, but it's a myopic view. So we are looking at it as a marathon of 20, 30 years, training our own folks, and more importantly, not running this in a lab, bringing it onto the factory floor.